Well, on Tuesday, we said we were going to take a very deep dive into how you make your little miniature bottles.
Right.
You carve them out of acrylic rod.
Right, something that you bought a long time ago, and we just had them in the shop, and you handed me a few pieces and said, if you want to do something with these little pieces, go ahead. So I did.
And one of the things is, in the pictures, I'm using a macro lens, but these things are teeny, 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 tiny.
Right, yeah, about the size of my fingernail, really.
And they're just beautiful. And they almost sort of look like they're turned on a lathe, and I've tried turning them on a lathe, and they don't work that way.
Yeah, my dad was a wood carver, so I watched him a lot, just doing things by hand and just turning it in his fingers, so that's what I've been doing.
These acrylic rods come in a whole bunch of different sizes. I think these are 6 millimeters?
Something like that, maybe a little bit narrower than a pencil.
And they come in a whole bunch of different colors.
That's a lot of fun. Now this is what I use to carve these. They're called like an engraving pen, but to me they're more like a little miniature Dremel. They're just, a little bit bigger than a husky pencil like a kindergartner would use. But they have a rechargeable battery. You just charge them up, and I have two different sizes. One has a little bit bigger, it takes a little bit bigger shank on the drill bit, and the other one has a smaller one so that it has a little bit smaller tools to use to get in for tiny places.
This is what we typically use, and I think what most people typically use. The one on the top is a Dremel, and everybody just kind of refers to these things as a Dremel, but the green one here is actually a Hitachi.
Right, we've had that one for a long time.
We love the Hitachi, but it's not made anymore, and you can't get proper batteries for it. But boy, do we love this thing.
Oh, I love this, but sometimes it starts singing a song, and I get worried the bearing is going out in it.
Yeah, I know. We've gone through one. We smoked the bearings, and now we've got this one. And when it's dead, it's gone because they don't make it anymore.
Well, hopefully you can find a replacement. And as I pointed out, I have a whole bunch of different little drill bits and files, and I just find one that I can use for carving these things out. In this case, it's kind of a conical shape to get the slope on the little wine glass and the base. And so I just start with that and rotate the little rod in my fingers until I get the shape that I want.
This is where I would turn it on a lathe, but when I do, it melts the plastic.
Yeah, it turns it way too fast, so I find that I can just kind of go at it by turning it gently with my fingers. And even then, sometimes that plastic will start to melt a little bit. You can see those little bubbles forming where I'm working.
And that just ruins the surface.
Oh, it can if you're not careful. Now, one thing about just doing it by hand like that is I can just pull those little bubbles off. It just comes off like brittle plastic at that point.
Yeah, when I'm turning it on a lathe, if the surface starts getting rubbery, the part's ruined. Right.
On this case, I have to keep an eye on what I'm doing and try to size it up visually because you don't want it lopsided either.
Well, that's the key, is the way you're rotating it in your fingers is taking the place of the rotating lathe without adding that kind of speed and heat that's destroying the part.
Yes, just a little tiny bit. And what I'm using right here is my other little engraving pen with the diamond tip on this one. It's just kind of square, so I can square off the base of that little wine glass. So right here I'm just kind of evening up the top of the glass because I will use that same tool to kind of just start etching down in the middle so that it looks like there's a beverage in there of some kind, some sparkling water, champagne, something. So this tool actually works really well to start just a little indentation in the top of what will be the little champagne glass. And I just keep working with it ever so patiently to etch it down so it looks like there's a rim on the glass with a beverage inside. So I have these little tiny micro files, and they work really well for this sort of thing. And I'm just doing the same thing there by hand and getting that to square up as much as I can. I've destroyed a couple of little wine glasses making them. That stem gets too thin, and all of a sudden, pop, and then it's back to the drawing board.
I'm really amazed at the thin section where you go down inside, that you're able to get that thin section around the top there without burning right through it.
Oh, it takes some patience. Like I say, you can't do it really fast. It's just something you're going to piecemeal and work on it ever so gradually, just keeping a very fine eye on it, because as I pointed out, yes, I have broken through a couple of times. Now I like to polish these up because, as you can see, that acrylic is pretty gnarly where I've been working on it, but it does polish up really nice. So I use these polishing pads that I get on Amazon. There's several sellers on there. They're called polishing pads. They're about 2 inches by 2 inches, and I cut them in half to make them last a little bit longer. But what they are is a very fine grit sandpaper. And then these yellow pads are called a sunshine cloth, and that's also available on Amazon. So what I do is just go in here with, first of all, the little sandpaper, the little polishing pads, and just go back and forth. You can find the grain of plastic. You'll see that it polishes better going one direction or the other. But I just keep going in there and polishing and shining until the plastic begins to be shiny and like new. And when I've achieved a polish on there that I like, I move to the sunshine cloth and finish polishing that up too. It's just that sunshine cloth is just like a flannel, but it's impregnated with a polishing compound. And you can see that it makes it look a lot more smooth.
Wow, that just looks amazing.
Yeah, it's funny what will work on jewelry, like cleaning up metal pieces on jewelry, to work on plastic. It's just funny how that works.
Yeah, there's always kind of a cross between different disciplines, and looking to jewelry tools, in this case jewelry polishing cloths for hobby, that's great.
Well, and I just experiment around to see what will work. I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So next I just get a little cutoff wheel for the Hitachi Dremel to cut the base off. Now I like this a little higher powered Dremel because you're going to be cutting through plastic, and I want it to be as even as possible. So I just carefully cut around until I can feel where it's just about almost all of the way through. And as you can see, it's building up enough heat that I'm getting quite a bit of plastic burr there going on. But it's easy to pull it off. And it looks like we're just about through. Pretty soon I'll be able to just pop that right off. And there we have it. Well, there it is. But you can see where the plastic is kind of melted, but I'm easy, just pull it off and sand it away. So right here I'm using the flat edge of that cutoff wheel. It's a diamond impregnated cutoff wheel. So I just very carefully sand the bottom as flat as I can. But again, boy, you have to be really careful because your fingers are just right there, and it's not hard to lose your grip and do a manicure job, if you know what I mean. Now for the finer work, again, I grab my little small pencil engraver Dremel with that diamond end on it, the diamond bit that's on there. It's just kind of squared off, and it makes a very level tool to make that just as flat as it can be. Now, of course, I want to make sure that whole bottom is nice and cleaned up and all the little plastic burrs are removed. And so, again, I'm just using one of those polishing pads and just cleaning that right up, and it starts to shine.
Well, it looks like the bottom's just as shiny as the top now.
Well, that's what we're trying to achieve, and I'm surprised always. I mean, you can kind of feel when it starts to work, and and polish up. It gets smooth and it takes off fast.
And it stands upright.
Yes, I've just about got it where it's a couple of tries there. Had the Leaning Tower of Pisa there for a couple of minutes. Well, speaking of manicure work, of course my fingernails look like they need a manicure. But what I do is on Amazon, I order all of these little bits and pieces for fingernails. Some of the ladies like to have little sparkly gems on their fingernails. But I have another method that I use them for, and I buy them to do my arts and crafts with. And right here is one of the ones that I really like. It's just got little fruit slices. We have kiwis and lemons and grapefruit and oranges and dragon fruit flowers. And I think my little wine glass needs a little lemon slice to go on top of it. So I just selected myself one of those little lemons and cut a notch in it to go on the edge of the glass. So then I just use a little tiny bit of the thin, just be really careful, the thin crazy glue or CA glue. And you can see that I've put some inside the glass. And on this acrylic, if you're really careful, it actually bonds well and creates even more of a crystal clear appearance. And of course, to make sure it's all down inside and the excess removed, I just used a toothpick. So while the glue is still wet and with very careful fingers, I put that little tiny lemon slice on the edge, make sure it's there, and just left it to dry. I didn't use kicker on it or anything, just leave it be and let it dry naturally. So now we have our little glass, our little wine glass with a beverage in it and a lemon slice.
So how in the world do you do the bottles that are half full?
Well, a very similar way like I did the wine glass, but what I do is I select a colored, one of the rods, and apply a little of CA glue, and then ever so carefully, and it's hard sometimes because boy, that stuff wants to set up really fast or not at all, a clear rod. And here I'm applying a little bit of the kicker because it's giving me fits here. So what I do is once it's dry, then I cut off the desired amount of the clear rod, and then I go to work. So right there I've just removed some of the plastic burrs that were at the top from cutting it off. But then I start with my conical Dremel, the little drill bit on the end of that, because it can take off quite a bit of plastic at one time. And again, just start working around like I did with the wine glass, shaping that ever so carefully into the shape of the neck on the bottle. So I have to try to blend the colored part to the clear part because it's supposed to be just a bottle with a tapered neck on it. And just working it back and forth really careful, not pushing really hard. Because again, when you're working even with these smaller power tools, you want to be careful not to come into contact with your fingers, and it's really easy to do, as you can see how close I am working to bare fingers. It's time consuming. It takes me a little bit switching back and forth between the two different Dremel heads, which is why I like the fact I've got two, because I don't have to stop and change out drill bit or heads or whichever you want to call them. I can just go back and forth as needed. Now you can see here that it's starting to take shape. It just, patience is key.
Now I noticed when you glued the two rods together, they were offset from each other slightly, but it doesn't seem to matter at all because as you're carving, then everything takes on a uniform taper.
Right. The ideal thing to do would be to get them as even as possible, but boy, about the time I thought I had them together, the CA glue proved me wrong, and so they were a little bit crooked. And you can just start over again, but what I do is just carve it around till it matches. Not that difficult. And again, I just give it a quick going over with a file. I'm still working with that offset to make it a little bit smoother than what it was. But then when I get it right where I want it, then I can go after it with both the polishing pad and the sunshine cloth to bring out the shine in the plastic again. So again, when I'm finished with the bottle, I have it pretty much where I'm happy. I go ahead with that cutoff wheel using the more powerful Dremel and just work my way around, twisting it ever so carefully and working very carefully because I'm right by my fingers to cut that little bottle off the end of the acrylic rod. And again, when I get almost there, I can just snap it off. And I do the same thing, polishing it with different files till I get what it is I'm after, and it starts to look really smooth and can stand up by itself without leaning too far. So right there I just used again the diamond bit cutoff wheel to even up that bottom a little bit, but I can't stress enough to go slow and watch what you're doing because you're right by your fingers. And again, just a quick sanding, making sure that that bottom is as flat as it can be so it stands up. And when I'm happy with it, then I check, and it looks like it's standing up pretty well this time. I think it looks much better with a label on there, so I'm going to thumb through my trusty little magazine and see if I can come up with something. And I have a little picture of some trees and a sky. That should be good for a wine bottle. And again, I just use some CA glue or some kind of glue that adheres really well to plastic and glue my label on there. And it looks like it's going to be on there pretty well. So there it is. And then the top, I have these metallic pins, and one is gold. So I put the top foil on that wine bottle to make it look like it's got a seal on it. So no wine tasting is ever complete without a good book and a relaxation, don't you agree?
And maybe a bit of cheese.
Oh yes, gotta have the, oh, well I guess I better make some cheese then.
And just as a reminder how very, very small these are, here it is with a pencil.
Yes, there's my trusty pencil.
So they are just tiny, tiny, tiny.
Right. I just love making stuff like this. I see it all the time in hobby stores, various places, but yeah, I could buy it. But it's so much more fun to make your own.
And you've made some of this stuff about half this size, and we use it on the railroad.
Right. It's not that hard to do. Sometimes I just use beads, but with these little Dremel tools, I can certainly carve them out and make them look authentic.
Well, that is spectacular.
Oh, yes. And I did use some more of those little fingernail stick-em-on-ems to make that little tray. It's just a wooden disc, and I painted it and hollowed out the inside a little bit and added those little fingernail decals and another wine bottle and a cute little envelope that I cut out of a magazine. So there's my tasty tray.
Well, next week we're going to be visiting an old friend. And while we were down in the St. George area, we looked him up. And so that will be next Sunday's show, and always a lot of fun.
Oh, it's always fun.
So if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe and click your notification bell so you will be notified when we put that show up. So if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe by clicking on the upcoming blue button. Zoink! Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring, and we will see you here on Tuesday.
Right.
We'll see ya.
We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.